Man from the Moon. Come on, Mr. Newspaper Man, he's not gonna bite you. He just wants to introduce himself. I am quaking. Legs like jelly. Facing me across the kitchen is an animal of a man, with snarling teeth and rolling eyes, and his pet. Harvey, a 6-foot alligator. Harvey is ice still, an assassin ready to strike. He sits at the feet of his master, Frankie Donotti. Big 21-stone Frankie. Sea blue Hawaiian shirt, hair bright red, out of a bottle, spiky short. Not your usual ex-astronaut. The pet's staring up at me, all cartoon smile. This really is Looney Tunes. Eyeball to eyeball in a Florida bungalow with a gator as it savours its main course, me. One eye's on Harry's next move. The other's looking for a fast exit. Or something to wipe that grin off its face. Perhaps that glass, still half full with the beer Frankie had poured me when we were getting along. Harvey would just swallow it. Cheers. Come on, don't be such a cowardy coward, John boy. I thought you Brits were the brave ones. Thatcher rules the waves, what ho? Come on, get over here, fella. Say hello to Harvey. Have a bit of a chat. Swap phone numbers. You two could be real good friends. Shouts Frankie. His teeth are bared. Harvey's are already on show, creeping out of his closed mouth. It's just gone 3, on a blazing afternoon in Hacienda Homes Retirement Park. 20 paces from a phone and a 911 call to Starsky and Hutch, and I'm wondering if this is my last day on the planet. Frankie was right. I am a coward. I don't want to die pursuing the truth. I tripped up with Frankie Donotti. Frankie wrong-footed me. I should have known, 10 years after he plummeted from Moon to Earth, that if he was loopy then, he'd be even loopier now. Frankie was an astronaut. He'd once been the highest of the high heroes, a going-to-the-moon man, his chiselled features and athletic body plastered all over the papers. This was before those lost years on Planet Cheeseburger and his strange taste in pets. He had chatted to the president from the command capsule while his buddies John Mutter and Kevin Coyne and their lunar module were down on the moon, bouncing in their buggy along the slopes and dusty craters, whacking golf balls into deep space. Hey Kevin, that's a hole-in-one on Mars, said Jock. We fell for Jock and Kevin. They're calm in a crisis when they thought something had hit their spacecraft on the moon. Houston, I think a Chevy just clipped our bumper. The delightful way they showed us round their cramped spacecraft. This here, folks, is the condo, and we've got loads of space out there, as their camera panned into the deep darkness. Jock and Kevin never came back. Lost in space. The high-speed accident catapulted them out beyond the moon's orbit before gravity dragged them down to their final destination. All alone. Not even a flag to mark the spot. The shockwaves rippled back to Earth. We were told that they wouldn't have suffered. Astronauts had a pill for just this kind of eventuality. They had time to say their goodbyes to their families. Then they took the pill. Ashes to ashes, moon dust to dust. Frankie Donotti came back to Earth alone, and the whole planet felt for him. His lonely hell on that long journey home. We took off our hats to the selfless and courageous pioneer of our distant stars, as the president put on his somber TV address. They'd practiced that docking manoeuvre over and over in simulations on Earth. Jock and Kevin in their lunar module blasted off from the moon and went into a low orbit to hook up again with Frank in his command module. All systems go, but then came the time for the two crafts to dock. At Mission Control, they first thought Jock and Kevin were just going too fast. Their lunar module plodded into a command capsule way over the speed limit and they just bounced off. Houston, I think a Chevy just clipped our bumper there. That phrase rang hollow now. When that helicopter winched Frankie out of the command capsule in the Atlantic, America prepared to honour its brave young son. They said he'd done everything he could to save the day. "It's hopeless, Frank. You need to come back home safe, now," Mission Control told him. Back on Earth, things started orbiting out of control rapidly for Frankie. Tests showed that his blood contained a bottle full of bourbon. Then they probed the onboard videos. The crew's water flasks were a standard issue grey, but Frankie had an extra one. Brighter silver and a slightly different shape. He must have smuggled it on board in that one keepsake each astronaut was allowed. Frankie's was a childhood teddy, with booze in its belly. Then they scrutinised the footage of that fatal docking manoeuvre. Frankie's hands were trembling on the controls, darting around the maze of instruments, reaching to turn something off, then dithering and moving on. What they saw at first seemed like high-speed efficiency. Slowed down, it looked like a drunk trying to find a light switch. When they burrowed into the soundtrack, they heard, "God damn it, I thought I was turning left. Why didn't that work for me? It works in my auto." The blubberings, the gibberings, the jabbing fingers created a chilling picture. A man high above the earth, high as a kite. Driven round the bend in space was how one newspaper captured the forlorn figure trying to explain himself in a government inquiry, which concluded that he'd had an irretrievable breakdown. 2 weeks after coming back, Frankie went to ground, heroism in tatters, future over. He had a reasonable Air Force pension, but he was poor now, and the families pursued him in vain of compensation. Jock's father went to the grave 2 weeks after his son. "How can that monster live with what he's done?" he'd quaked to the world's press. But Frankie did live on. In the high-walled suburbia, sneaking through the reclaimed swampy backwaters that skirted Orlando. Frankie blipped from the radar, refusing all interviews. That's until 10 years after the tragedy. My news editor thought it would be a good idea to catch up with our lost astronaut. So there I was, back in 1982 with a 3-day pass to the US of A to see Frankie. I'd called him from London. "Hell, a journalist from London, England wants to talk to me? I am truly honoured," he rasped. "Yes, Mr. Donotti, our readers really want to know how you're doing these days." "So, what do you journalise about, John? What do you put in those journals of journalism? Do you write the truth?" "Oh, no, the truth. Our readers want to hear your story." "The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? How does $100,000 sound?" I don't think my editor can run to that." "Well, how about $10,000? You run along and tell your Mr. Editor it's $10,000 or no deal. Once I have the money, you can hightail it over here, Mr. Journalizer." I wish my editor hadn't agreed to Frankie's demands. Maybe I should have turned back as soon as I saw Frankie's bungalow. All white, curtains closed, a grey gravel driveway, not a blade of grass or flower in sight. And that sign by the front door, "No invited callers, we'll call you." Before I'd pressed the doorbell, he was there, blocking out the view down his hallway with his mighty gut. Beer in hand, good luck necklace glinting on the mush of grey hair sprouting off that glistening Hawaiian shirt. "My Englander friend, at last you've come to save me," he laughed, as he slapped my shoulder with his pudgy hand. His voice was a rasping boom, fogged up with fags and fat. We're in the kitchen now. Discarded beer cans, ashtrays and takeaway cartons piled high. It was dripping hot. Frankie had no aircon on, and although a sliding door was open at the back, we were begging for a breeze. "I just love your Mrs. Thatcher. We need her here right now to clean up the crime in our cities," he snarled, right in my face. What teeth he had left, just a few snagglers at the front, were sharp, like pencils. It was as if he'd been at them with a nail file. This was quite a journey. I asked about the moon disaster and Big Frankie lit another cigarette, his third in 15 minutes, and he grinned big. Hell, man, the only way we can talk about this is if you and me step into the Valley of Fear. You got animals, John? Beamed Frankie. I have a cat, yes. A cat? A puss cat? I got a cat too! A big cat. You want to see my cat? Frankie lolloped over to a huge door in the corner of the kitchen. Kitty, 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 we got a friend who's come all the way from England to see us. And with that, he flung open the door and Harvey the gator schlepped in on a long chain lead and settled next to his master. Oh, he won't bite you, John. Not unless he reckons you're going to harm me, said Frankie, wrapping the slack of the lead round his wrist. Had him since he was a kitty kid, so I'm kind of like a mother to him. He understands me, you know what I mean? You want to talk about the moon. He dragged the word out. We'll talk about the moon! Hell, they said that I'd been drinking. I ain't been drinking. That ship, it just wasn't up. It just wasn't up to it. Do you know what it must have felt like to be alone up there? After that, all my friends gone? There's nothing. Nothing! But, they said that you had been drinking during the docking maneuver. Tell me about that. I stammered. No, you don't get it, John. You're grounded here, Earthman. I bet the most frightening thing that ever happened to you was when teacher found you smoking in the latrines, or your mummy caught you dipping those greedy little fingers in her purse. You need to feel the fear. And that's when he barked at Harvey, "Go eat!" prodding the critter's back legs as it came scuppering across the kitchen floor. I dropped my tape recorder and ran, hurling my unfit bulk towards the open door, dodging the discarded beer cans and swerving past a swimming pool piled high with garden waste. Come on, John, say hello to Harvey. He wants to have dinner with you. I didn't look back, but I heard a frantic rustling through the grass. Frankie snorting and spluttering. In my blind panic, I spotted a creeper growing up the side of the garden wall, leapt for it and started grasping at the branches, pulling myself up and up. And then I felt teeth. Sharp teeth. Frankie was trying to bring me back down to earth.